The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
You're listening to the Everyday Therapy Podcast. I'm JC Rader.
And I'm Julianne Schroeder.
And we're therapists bringing you honest conversations around emotional wellness and self-development.
Inspired by our personal experiences in therapy and because of our clients, we realize therapy has so much to offer both on and off the couch. Listen for tips and tools to navigate all the challenges that life throws your way.
To give us feedback on topics and guests, or for more information on our community events, counseling, or online services, contact us at everydaytherapypodcast.com. Hello, let's get right into our supporters. We're so appreciative of them. So Lifeology is a group private practice for counseling here in the DFW area. They have locations all over Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Grand Rapids, Michigan, everywhere. So they offer counseling at lowered rates, so $35, starting at $35. And interns all the way up to licensed clinicians, very experienced clinicians, and they offer early morning appointments, late evenings, and weekends. So if you have not gotten a chance to try therapy yet, this is a perfect company to try it with. I was trained there. I'm a huge advocate for them, huge supporter. So we're so thankful to have them on our team here.
Yes, and the therapists are really laid back, approachable. They pride themselves on being creative and addressing solutions to stuck problems. And so with that, they have also created the LISP School, which is the Lifeology Institute for Psychotherapeutic Yoga. Yes.
You're getting so good at that.
Right, I know. I've practiced a time or two. And the LISP School is just cutting edge in terms of addressing mental health concerns by merging Eastern and Western approach to health and mental well-being. So they are targeting mental health therapists as well as yoga teachers who want to be able to offer something else and really be able to affect change both in mind and body. They have a couple openings left for their 200-hour certification coming up here in May, but check them out, thelispyschool.com.
Yeah, and Julianne is an instructor there. We're both graduates from there, so huge transformation for us coming through that school. So thank you guys so much for supporting us. And now let's introduce our guest. We're so excited.
Happy to be here.
A real star, a TV star.
Oh my goodness, yes. Let's just keep saying that, sure.
She's used to the lights and the camera.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Well, you too. I mean, you ladies are doing a segment on the show.
Yes.
We're like celebrity therapists. It's a thing now, okay, guys?
We're Dr. Phil.
In the making, but better.
Julianne, but minus the doctor. Yeah. So Brittany Madrid of BZenTV.
Yes.
So on ABC, WFAA.
Yes, and we'll be in Austin starting July 11th on the ABC affiliate KVUE there.
Wow.
So we're really excited about that. Yeah. Did I tell you guys that yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you'll be in Austin too
works.
soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, it's really growing.
It is growing.
So tell us a little bit about BZenTV. We obviously know, but I want to share it with our listeners.
Sure, yeah. Well, BZenTV, it's my passion project. It's my entire life. It's my everything. I have a background in television. I worked in commercials and in producing for a while. That's really been my major professional route, and I got to a place where I just wanted to talk about things that I thought were really important and interesting. And it's kind of like an Oprah Super Soul Sunday vibe where we have, inspirational people, but it's for our generation. So it's just having people on like you guys who bring value, having inspirational people on that can teach us something, and a place for us all to connect and have a good time. So Yeah, we love it. We're shooting at the W Hotel now. You guys got to see our new setup.
It's so
It's very
schwanky,
glam.
Oh, yes.
We love it, keeping it fun. And so, yeah, it's wonderful. I love doing it, and I love learning. Just like you guys, how y'all are such good teachers. So love being on people like you.
I love how it incorporates beauty, fashion, wellness, mindfulness, like all the different things integrated together. It's not just like one aspect.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's really meant to address the complete person, the complete woman. You know, we're all human. We all have, you know, our frailties. We all have the things that we're good at. And the show, you know, it's we all want to feel good. We all want to have fun. We want to be pretty. We like makeup, but it's also, we want to grow and be conscious. So I like to think of it as the bridge between like pop culture, having fun, and learning something and having some depth. So that's kind of what the show is, you know, it's what we're doing down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that description.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think that the conscious empowerment is a thread through it all, you know, because with those that you bring in, that, you know, the beauty aspect, they're talking about being cruelty free, and then, yes, you know, making sure that you have self-love for your, as well as being able to own your appearance. And so
Totally. And the BZen, the name, came from, honestly, the reason that I'm here, or like mental health, like my mental health journey. BZen kind of stands for like, you know, finding your happy place, your comfortable space where you're truly authentically connected to yourself and all the aspects of yourself, good and bad, right? And just kind of like what we were talking about off camera, or off air before, just depression and how that can be really hard for people, and we all need a place to go to feel uplifted and to connect with each other, because if we don't talk about it, if we don't have that, life can get dark at times. So the show's really meant to be a light and like a fun place and a positive space.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we were looking up some statistics before the show of, I think it was like 15% of people struggle with depression in their lifetime, which seems so low.
I'm like, 15? What?
Yeah, that's the reported amount.
Okay.
So,
well, the reported, right?
Yeah, because I think there's still such a stigma. I know for me, myself personally, like it's been hard for me to acknowledge that I was ever depressed, because to me, at times it's felt like, oh, I've been lazy or weak. I'm not trying.
Yes,
right?
same.
Like I'm making a big deal out of things.
Yep.
Which, yeah, you can relate to.
I can totally relate to. I'm actually a little bit anxious to talk about it, but I think it's important because I've gone through that too, where, you know, I've had a lot of shame in my life for being depressed. I think it's, and I want to ask you guys, I have so many questions to ask you guys today, because I don't know exactly where it came from or why, if it was situational at the time. There were certainly real things going on, but then I know there's a genetic component too. And I've been on, like I was on Effexor at one time in college. I did not have a good experience with that. So there's a lot of shame around depression in my own life, and something I still deal with and I have to remain aware of all the time.
It's so interesting. So I have a client who, she struggles with depression and anxiety, and it's a lot easier for her to talk about her anxiety. It's more socially, like, culturally okay to be anxious.
Yeah, people
stress.
like openly say like, "Oh, I'm anxious" or whatever.
Yeah.
But the depression part's like kind of like the darker side.
Right. And I think sometimes too, like especially for myself, it was hard to like pinpoint like, oh, this is depression. Like it took me a while to like look back and see like, oh, that was depression.
Yeah, because you can have high functioning depression. So, I mean, I think a common misconception is, you know, depression is that you're having suicidal thoughts. And it doesn't have to be at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly something that we need to acknowledge, because suicide is the 10th like leading cause of death in the US. But absolutely, you can have like low grade depression that you're not really aware of. Right. Because there are these kind of cultural expectations that impede us from really being able to acknowledge what it is. But I'm curious, for you and your depression, like what did you notice that was off? Or I guess.
For me, it was definitely, you know, what's funny, I think I struggled with it on and off like throughout my whole life, even as early as 6th grade. It all started like we're going way back.
Let's go back to
I'm
our
not
childhood
going to tell you
wounds,
guys like the whole, I'm not going to bore you with like but I will say I think it started even with, in 6th grade, my parents took me to a neurologist because I was struggling in math. And I was getting more withdrawn because I was embarrassed because we would do this game called Around the World. This is like getting deep.
I remember
Did you ever do that in math class?
Yes, and math was my hardest subject.
Really? You too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I feel you. I feel you, girl.
I remember counting and being like, why can everybody else count and I can't?
You also?
Yes.
Okay, maybe it's because of like our particular type of genius. Just,
Yeah.
does not allow for the math, that.
We have the emotional intelligence
Yeah.
sometimes and not the
We're very
mathematic.
high on that side. So we just, we don't even need the other really.
Yeah.
No, but it started then. I remember I would have to sit down like every time and I would never get it right. And my mom was a teacher at my school and I started to have like symptoms of being, embarrassed, more withdrawn. I started to get more quiet. And so my parents took me to a neurologist and they said that I had something called dyscalculia, which is like how people, they can have issues with like reading where their brains don't process words. My brain struggles to process numbers. And then they also said I was depressed as well. So that was the beginning, 6th grade.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's so early for it to be just like very ingrained in you and to not really know like what normal is.
Yeah. And I think that, then from there on, like I was always like kind of a deep thinker, always super sensitive. So I think it's really a lot of just the way that I'm made, like the way I'm wired. And I have to be really careful about, if I start to become overwhelmed emotionally, like, taking time away from the world without withdrawing. That's so the signs are, sorry to answer the question.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah,
we get off on
this
tangents.
is so helpful
going
though.
around.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I notice that I'm getting depressed when I start to lack motivation, when I start not answering texts or not answering emails, when I start to not go out or cancel plans or not go to events because I'm really social. I really like people and being around people. But when I start to do those things, like I start, not like I'll like wear sweats and I'll produce from my house all day and I say I'm working really hard, but like really are you? Or could you just maybe put on regular clothes and maybe like go to Starbucks and do some work and then,
Yeah.
So it's these little ways that I start to withdraw from the world to insulate myself and it becomes it's too secluded. It's not moving forward enough in my life, I guess.
Yeah.
Those are my main things. And then I'm like, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Let's
And it feels
rethink.
like very protective, like insulating, I think, of like you trying to protect yourself in a way you kind of need to like close up a little bit.
And are you protecting yourself from the thoughts and feelings that you have? Or I guess protecting others from that?
It feels almost like fatigue. It's hard to explain. It's almost like I just feel tired.
Yeah. Low energy.
Low energy, overthinking things. And then when I'm not depressed, it's like I'll be moving forward on things. Like I don't think so much about everything. I don't know. It's a balance. And I'm still working on finding where that balance is. And, I've been to therapy. When I was in college, I would pay for my own therapy like every week because my parents were going through a divorce. And so I experienced another period of depression.
And that says a lot to be in college and to like pay for
I
your
like
own.
needed it. I was like, dang. Well, and also I was getting I have a minor in psychology
I
and
remember
a degree
that.
in philosophy.
Yeah.
I've always loved like, getting into this stuff. So
Yeah.
I knew from class, I was like, oh, I'm depressed, So what about for you guys? What are some of the things that y'all have experienced when you've had depression?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the similar things of like checking out, like not calling people as much, like really tired, and then sometimes like not being able to sleep, but still like really tired. My weight changes a lot.
Oh, yes. I forgot to mention that one. Totally
Yeah.
for me too.
Yeah, like either I'll lose weight or gain weight. And yeah, I'm just more irritable.
Yeah.
Also, like it's harder and more overwhelmed emotionally.
Yes.
Like it's like my sensitivity is so loud that every little thing is like a hurt or a grievance that
Yes.
somebody does, and it may just be like something super minor, like my partner posting something on Instagram and I'm like, why isn't that a picture of me?
Right.
Or something.
Oh my gosh, guilty.
Yeah.
If my boyfriend's listening to this, he knows. He's like, oh yeah, seriously.
right? But like, I mean, as humans, we have that negativity bias. Our brain is wired that way, but under depression especially so. We view things from a negative lens. So that makes sense. And then, I mean, we'll get to answering your question about, I mean, because depression is complex and there's multiple factors. But back to what to look for as well. I know that for me, I get really foggy in my thinking. And it's just like nothing is going in or out. And then, you know, my self-critical voice is really loud when I'm depressed. So in a lot of the judgments towards myself of like, why is it so hard for you to do this? Like, you should be doing more. All of that really is present.
Which compounds like where you're already
Makes it worse. You're like, now I'm struggling. Now I'm hating on myself for struggling. And so, compounding effect there.
For
So
sure.
what do you guys do to get out of it when you're starting to feel like that?
I mean, I like have been on antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and sometimes that's just like what I need to like an extra push to like feel normal. Therapy is obviously really helpful. I think for me too, like acknowledging my thoughts, thought patterns, like we call them cognitive distortions, which is like psychological jargon, but like noticing that I'm catastrophizing, I'm making everything into this awful mess, and like being able to let that go, or having black and white thinking, like, okay, is there a gray area here? So being able to acknowledge those thoughts, I feel like are super helpful. What about for you, Julianne?
Yeah. Well, what helps me, and what I will say, like the research also points to helping depression in particular, is the behavioral activation.
Okay.
So the act of doing something. But as you know, when you're depressed, you're so fatigued, and like that lack of motivation is not there, and you're beating yourself up, and you just feel paralyzed by it at times, right?
I've totally felt paralyzed before. That's like the best word. It's like you feel like you can't move and you can't do it. And for me, it'll pass eventually. And like, I know, I'm like, okay, like give it a couple days and it'll pass. But like, it's the worst feeling.
Yes. Yeah, and I work with some clients where their depression is so bad that they literally can't get out of bed. Fortunately, I've never been at that point where I literally could not get out of bed. But what I tell them and what has worked for me is like, take the smallest, easiest step, right? So for a client who can't like get out of bed, can you sit up? Can you stretch? Create some movement? And, you know, from an energetic standpoint, like being able to kind of release some stuff. So it might be some simple yoga and breathing while sitting up in bed.
Nice.
Or, you know, for me, I have to get out of my head and around others. So it might be that I reach out to someone and say, like, can you come over?
Yeah, that's nice.
What about you, Britt?
Probably it's been a combination of things. Like, so I actually have been at that place before where I felt like I couldn't get out of bed. And that was in college at the time when I was like starting to pay for my own therapy and do all that. My parents were going through a divorce. My father struggles with depression. And at that time, it really started to come out. And he was talking about things like, you know, killing himself, and he would say these things to the phone, like to me on the phone, and I was away at school. It was really
that's gotta be scary.
dark. It was really a dark, very bad time, you know, in my life where, you know, I didn't know what to do, and I was in my, you know, sorority house, and I just felt like everything was crazy. I was like, everything's so upside down. And like, you know, all my friends, like they were just living their life. We were in college, you know?
Yeah.
No one knows. Everyone's like, what? We're like 20, 19, you know? So it's not like I just didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to or to turn to.
Which is interesting, though, can I say?
Yeah,
as far
please.
as like what population or age has the most mental health problems is that college age, like 18 to 25.
Wow.
And that's also when like depression typically like spikes.
Really?
Yeah. So
That makes me feel better.
yeah. But like in that depressed mind, you feel like
just
so
kidding,
alone
but-
and like you're doing it wrong.
Yes. And at that time, I mean, oh my gosh, like now I'm 32. So like just, I feel I'm still learning and growing, but I feel light years away from that young girl who just didn't know. I had no clue, you know, about being emotionally open or the things that I was struggling with. I was still very much coming from my childhood programming completely, you know? So I just kind of fell into it. And repeated the cycle, I guess you could say. And so I wouldn't like go to class, and there would be days where I, would get up but I would like barely get out of bed. That's when I went on the antidepressants, but I don't think that they were right for my body chemistry. That wasn't the particular one that worked for me. So
Which
then
now they have the genetic testing that they
That's
can
cool.
see which one is going to be the best fit for you. So that's absolutely probably accurate.
Okay. Yeah. It's like, so I definitely don't think it was the right one. And it, then I had the withdrawal symptoms getting off it. So just a very intense, dark time. And so that's why I also am really passionate about making it something that I talk about more, like doing things like this with you guys and also on the show, because, knowing where I am now in life and my level of happiness versus where I was then, like, I know that you can get out of it. Like, you really can, and like there's hope, but at that time you just don't feel like there is.
Yeah, you don't see it. I mean, that's part of it is hopelessness.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not being able to see that.
So at that time, I don't know. I don't remember how I eventually got out of it. I think I was just kind of functioning at a lower level for a while. Then I got into my my philosophy classes. Things started to sort of shift a little bit. I started to just kind of do my own thing more. I distanced myself from that situation. I don't really speak to my father anymore, which sounds sad, but I think it's the healthiest thing for
like
me.
a boundary you had to make, which I think that's like an aspect of depression, is setting boundaries with toxic people in our lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you continue to be around people who they just don't have it in them to be able to be healthy, and if you have that already, like for me, maybe if I wasn't his child, I could just like be really loving and still be in his life. But I am his child. We have that connection. And I also have a little bit of that tendency to where I could get depressed too, that maybe genetically, I got from him. So our interaction, it's just not good for me personally.
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
advising anybody else to cut people off if that's not right for you. But for me, that was what I had to do.
Yeah.
So maybe that was, the beginning of the healing. So starting to shift my life to where it was really what I wanted to do and the person I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And over time, I just keep working at it to become more and more authentic.
Yeah, I think that's really brave and courageous to
thank you.
be able to do that, because I know that had to be so hard for you.
It was hard. And I still sometimes question whether, I should reach back out. And someday, hopefully I will be in that place. But I think I need to come to it with no expectation and do it for myself and for my forgiveness and healing, and not with the hope of some sort of connection,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm having a therapy session right now.
Yeah.
Almost like detached in a way of like kind of accepting of what the situation is.
But
No
I think
expectations.
Yeah.
like with parent relationships, like we want that connection and we want that love, and when parent isn't available for that, or doesn't have the capacity to, it's hard even in our adult selves to not be triggered by that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because we're wired for that, right? I just want to speak to, it's not like that you're not developed enough, right?
Thank you.
But
That it's just kind of part of being a human.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I always tell myself, I'm like, when I'm healed enough, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if maybe that's even, maybe I can take that one off my shoulders then.
For sure. For sure.
So, and then now, when I get depressed, it's different. It's like, it's not that level, because I think that family thing, that situation at the time, I think that was more of like a situational depression.
Right.
Now that's not really the thing. Now it's more of just, I think, dealing with the day-to-day, like just my personality, getting overwhelmed, feeling anxious. It's not like I can't get out of bed, but I'll procrastinate. I'll do those little things, especially when it comes to like something with the show. Like if I feel like, oh my gosh, someone's going to be mad at me and I have to get this and this and this done, I'll procrastinate, or I will not prioritize properly. So learning, that I have to really emotionally harness myself in order to be professionally successful.
Yeah.
Like what a journey that is.
Yes.
yeah, but like what a gift to know yourself, right? And to be able to like make those tweaks. Because I mean, the depression anxiety cycle happens to so many. I mean, I can say that happens to me, right? And it can happen to those, especially that are sensitive, that are perfectionistic, that are people pleasing, which relate to.
Yep. So we've talked about like HSPs before,
Yeah.
right? And some people like don't think that that's a real thing,
Yeah.
but it's a real thing.
No, it's a valid thing.
Okay.
The highly sensitive person, it's 20% of the population, 50% of people who have mental health issues. So, I mean...
Okay, so that's why.
Yeah. So, and I think that, we can relate to that too, of just kind of being overly sensitive, and it's hard to, like, buffer any type of infiltration that we get.
Right. So there should be like a support group for us
Yes.
HSPs.
Yeah.
Why is this not more? I mean, it's 20% of the population.
Yeah.
Should we like start a group or something?
For sure.
Like, here's what we're gonna do. Here's the little sign we're gonna put up on our email when like I just need a day.
Your
Thank
signature.
you.
Mental health day, please. Thank you.
Thank you. You're friendly HSP. Like, love you. Like,
I love
ask for what we need.
Alanis Morissette is such a big like advocate for it.
Is she?
Oh my gosh,
Read some of the stuff she puts out there about
Which
it.
makes sense because she's so like deep.
She's so
and,
deep, yeah.
Yeah, like heartfelt and
Yeah.
like an empath. But yeah, she is really identifies as an HSP.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, and part of the HSP, I think that can be a misconception, is that we're just emotional, or
Right.
But you know, when we're looking at the science behind it too, a lot of it is this lifestyle factor,
Ooh,
right?
Like what? Okay, so
I mean,
what?
just like our body and our nervous system is especially sensitive, and so we're constantly taking in stimuli, like over processing,
Yep.
right? So for you, when you have to be on. Right. And also that part of your personality that wants just to make everybody happy and everything go well. Like that's just
You've
so
seen that?
draining.
Have you noticed that?
I might know a thing.
She's like, I've seen you. Like,
Yeah. Like you
it's
just
a
gotta feel so
thing.
drained. And do you prep before and after to account for that?
So what's funny is, okay, I have been feeling really drained by it, but I find that when I'm more open with the people around me, like my crew, and like, you know, I like talk to Andrew, like shout out to Andrew, like, hey Andrew, if you're watching, he's so wonderful, and like learning to like lean on people and open up and be like, hey, I'm going through this right now. I'm stressed out about this, you know, and not feeling like I have to be a false self to the people at work. You know what I mean? For clients, I think it's different in a sense. I have to show this side that's like, we've got it all together, everything's great, da. But then there are certain people that I'm learning to let my guard down around more, and it helps me not to feel overwhelmed. And also my mom helping me. Shout out to my mom.
Yeah.
She's in studio.
She's in studio. She's come on as a production assistant, and you know, who better than someone in your family who really wants the best for you to help with that. So, you know, she was there helping with the set design and things like that. So for me, that's a big mental burden. So I think it's just learning like ways to acknowledge that I'm stressed, and then think about like, how can I offload some of this? How can I be more open with someone around me? How can I ask for what I need? And then, you know, I do feel drained, but then like today I was tired because we filmed yesterday and you guys were there and being awesome. And but like this like lights me up. So like I feel excited about this, and then speaking tonight, doing something else. So maybe it's also making sure that I'm doing the things that I really love.
Yes.
things that give you purpose and fulfillment.
Yeah, purpose and connection, right? Those are like major key factors into our happiness.
Yeah.
But like when the depression tells you that, oh, I'm such a burden, I should just keep it to myself.
So
right?
that was me
That's
like a
what's
month
hard.
ago.
Yeah.
So that's when I actually reached out to my mom and had a meeting with Andrew to talk about, I just like reached out because I was at that point where I was like, I was feeling like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't doing things right, you know, and from the outside, people would think like, oh, okay, like our show's doing well, it's growing.
never guess.
This and that.
Yeah.
But like in reality, I just was feeling very unsure of myself and starting to doubt. And I think it's healthy to like talk to people.
Yeah,
But I get to where I don't even talk to people about stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what the heck that is. But
Well, like you said, the acknowledgement, like, because I think there's like some self-denial, like I don't want to feel weak or acknowledge what's going on.
yeah, like I feel embarrassed. Like if I say that I'm worried, like they're not, like, they're going to reject me. I think that's like the core fear.
They'll find me out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you spoke to that like vulnerability piece.
Yeah.
And that takes a huge risk to tell your crew, like, hey, I'm struggling, like I need help.
Yeah.
But I also think it like models, especially when you're in a position of like managing others, like just like that transparency, right? And that, like, I don't know. I know that I've always really respected any sort of bosses that like showed when they didn't have it, quote unquote, all together.
Yeah.
Right. Like I, love my parents, and it was hard. The message that I received growing up a lot of times, like we've got to put it, like we've got it together, right?
Yeah. I remember we talked about that. Yeah. So for you, what did that feel like? And where do you think that came from within them? Just like wanting to look like things are good because they thought that was the way to make things good?
I mean, I think it all stems down to that fear of, being judged, right, by others. And so, I think to test that out with people that we trust.
Yeah.
Right. So like by, reaching out to your mom who or whatever, like we just start, like if you start with one person, right? So then you just, I don't know, don't have to bear that burden by yourself. Because it's just so heavy.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's also like putting yourself around the people that really understand you, because there was a time in my life where I definitely had friends that I didn't feel really understood me. Like it was more of like a surface friendship.
Yeah.
And then like, so even for example, I don't know if she was there when you guys were there, but did you see my friend Priya who came? She showed up. I think she came after you guys left. So anyway, she's a yoga teacher, very, very mindful, works with a lot of charities and trauma recovery, like truly a friend that connects with the mission and is also sensitive and gets me, like we get each other.
Yeah.
She showed up yesterday to support, so it's like those friends and those people that make you feel not alone. But if you're not seeking those friends out,
Right.
And
Like trying and making an effort.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when
All
you
the
don't
connection.
have those friends, like, or if you're around friends that don't understand you or don't really want the best for you, like, how girls will talk about like their friends gossiping or
Right.
backstab you. Like, since I've entered into my 30s, like this might sound
ain't got time
cliche,
for
but
that.
I'm like, no. But like that
done.
used to be a thing.
Yeah.
I'd like be upset, like, oh, this was talking behind my back. Like now, if you talk behind my back, like you're not my friend. I
Bye.
don't have time.
Yeah.
I'm an adult. Like I don't do that to other people, and it's just not acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
Right. So, but as women, I think it's like knowing that we deserve supportive friendships, supportive relationships, healthy family boundaries. Like that's all a work in progress. But I think those are the things that help with depression when you give yourself permission, because I think a lot of depression is not having those coping skills. And then we get to a place where we feel so beat down. Like I read in some book, I wish I could remember what it is, but the other day it's like depressed, and then they like, sectioned out the word into like deep rest. Like when you're so tired that you need a deep rest. And that's why it's almost like your body going into a mode to shut you down to heal. That was an interesting perspective that I read. And I was like, I can see that.
Yeah, well, because when the mindset, like depression is like you're just beating yourself up and just such like I'm worthless, like all of that mental fatigue is going to eventually result in physical fatigue.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe
I
the
love that.
depression is telling us something.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, there are some things, like you said, it's complex.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe some of it's just wiring, and that might be helped with like a pill or some sort of medication or cognitive therapy. But I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a part of it that it's like telling us something, like something in your life isn't working. Maybe you need to love yourself more, or be around better people, or
absolutely.
have boundaries. So what do
Yeah.
y'all
I think-
think about that?
For sure.
I totally agree. And I think that, not to plug therapy, but that's kind of what we're about. But I feel like that's why therapy or, talking with a supportive friend can help you be self-reflective and to see like what is going on. Like, oh, I have that critical voice, or I need to set boundaries, or whatever it is. But I feel like in pain, there is treasure, right? Like going through a challenge, we learn something. Like I feel the most connected to myself, the most connected to God, the people around me whenever I'm going through something painful.
Same. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would characterize depression as a disconnection.
Okay.
Like in all ways.
Yeah.
Like disconnect from true self. I mean, disconnect from any spiritual self, like from others when you isolate. So like the opposite of that. And I think one of the big coping strategies is that connection, right? And to be able to reach out, you know, to find that one person where you can start talking. And you know, this is great because hopefully we're encouraging others, you know, by sharing
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
and to be vulnerable and know that, like, I don't know, like we all have periods in our life where we struggle. And I mean, I think it's sad, but in a way created more awareness, you know, when we've had like Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade and all these people who pretend to have it together.
Right.
Right. So I hope that the word gets out that, right, like we don't have to, you know, keep that up.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think that like just knowing that it's okay to be wherever you are in your life, like even if you're really depressed right now to where like you can't get out of bed, you know, just knowing that like you're still valuable and like this is part of your journey. This isn't ever going to be, this is not the last stop. No moment is the last stop.
Right.
Your highest high or your lowest low, that's not the last stop, you know, and like you're valuable and you're worthwhile. And like whatever this part of your journey is, find the treasure. Like you said, JC, like find that treasure because it's there if you really look.
I love that. That's so powerful. Like, know your worth even in depression when you're feeling like lazy or unproductive or not good enough.
Yeah, and on a practical level, something that like people can do because, you know, that's so common to experience, right? Like when we talk about the negativity bias, is to be able to celebrate like one small win.
Yes.
Right. And like I tell clients to keep a record of that. So each day,
That's awesome.
if your win was brushing your teeth, yeah, let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
Seriously, because depression can be so encapsulating. Right. But also from a brain perspective, right? Like you're really building a new pathway of creating that positive. So like, yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that idea. I'm going to actually start doing that. Like, so yesterday flew by so fast, right? We were producing a show and everything. Like, I'm going to buy a journal just for the wins
Yes.
so that I can start to program my mind to be like, but like this happened, and this was forward movement, right?
Because we
forget
can-
it so
yes.
easily.
Yeah.
What went well, we
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that that's like a part of our personality that pushes us and makes us like better at what we do to be able to see where our area of growth is. But it's not realistic. You know, it's not rational if we're not looking at the whole picture. That's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm going to do it too.
Let's all do it. Everybody do it. Keep
Let's start
a
a
win
campaign.
journal.
Yes.
A journal of your wins.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's easy. I think, you know, gratitude gets, and gratitude is helpful in depression as well.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of research for that.
Yeah. To even find like neutral moments to appreciate, right?
Yeah,
Like,
like-
well, today didn't suck as bad as yesterday.
Right.
Right.
Like this happened, this was good.
Yeah.
Like because like you said, if it's a disconnection,
Yeah.
the gratitude connects you deeper to yourself and, you know, spiritually. I think it can also have that component too.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, Britt. I know meditation and mindfulness is a big part of your life. How has that supported you and what does that look like?
So for me, when like it all kind of started when I was, I used to teach bar classes. I did that for 3 years. I love fitness instructing, but I noticed that like a lot of my clients that would come into the class, they talked to me afterward, and I was feeling like a lot of the things they were going through, like they were saying it was like with their weight or things like that, but I knew it was like depression, probably because I had been there, so I could like see it in them, and I was like, what can we do? So at the end of the classes, I started doing like a quick, you know, like mindful moment, and I would just like say something positive at the end. We'd close our eyes, we'd take a deep breath. Then I started reading about meditation. I started attending some meditations, doing it myself. And that's really how I got like into that. And then really the name BZenTV, like all of this comes from, you know, I guess the treasure in my pain is, you know, coming up with an idea for a show that's like my passion now, right? So it all kind of came back around.
Yeah.
But that's the mindfulness thing. And I try to keep up with it when I get busy. To be
so
honest,
hard.
it falls off sometimes.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. I can agree.
It does. But definitely like when I need to reset and reconnect to myself. Just going somewhere and being quiet and reminding myself that like I'm worth spending time with, and just keeping that relationship between myself and, my spirituality, myself and nature, myself and my gratitude, like taking that time to go and like sit on a pillow or sit in the grass and just like be by myself and like listen and just breathe. For me, it's really healing. And I like to do that, especially when I am feeling stressed out or I start to feel depressed. It can really help me to get back on track because I'll feel like I'm like being there for myself. So, yeah.
That's self-compassion, it sounds like.
Yeah. Like the act of like, oh, I'm doing something for myself. That is good.
Yeah.
Like and showing myself love and worthiness in this way. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I will say, I know sometimes when like my mental chatter is just like there.
We talked about that yesterday.
Oh, we did.
The mental chatter.
Just like mindfulness and you were thinking the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Meditating,
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was meditating on some relationship issues.
Right,
Anyways.
right.
But
Tune into the episode and watch them talk about relationships. Yeah.
exactly. Coming next.
We've got you covered. Yeah.
But I know that it's helpful for me to not just sit in silence because my thoughts just can overwhelm me. So I just share this for others to know that, guided meditations are awesome, right? Of just being able to, get out of that rut of those repeated thinking patterns. So I love calm, simple habit. No.
I think that is
The
it.
simple habit. Okay, not simple practice.
Headspace. Insight timer.
Do you use any guided meditations?
I like Calm. I have that on my phone. And then also I'll go like on YouTube and I'm really into like the different chakras.
Ooh.
And I like to do like solar plexus chakra meditation.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, that's good.
Is that
Yes.
like confidence and
Yes,
Yes,
it's
self-worth.
like your
empowerment?
your self-worth, empowerment, your inner fire.
Yeah.
And I get really into like the symbolism of things. Like that's part of my like healing yourself.
Yeah.
Self whatever. I'll like wear yellow.
Yes.
'Cause it like makes me feel more
That's
sunny.
my solar plexus chakra.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll think about the solar plexus and there's like different affirmations you can do. So like I'll do the meditation and I'll like write the affirmations on my phone. I'll look at them throughout the day if I need it. So try to find like little ways to like help myself.
Right.
And then I like the throat chakra as well. That's like self-expression. So if I'm feeling nervous about going on camera or talking to someone, like I'm doing a speaking thing tonight, pretty nervous. So I'm going to probably do a solar or a throat chakra meditation before the event. And I'll just look it up on YouTube and it's like, you'll find one and there's usually like colors and lights and like music. And, you just kind of, I think we all just kind of do what works for us at the time, right?
Yeah, find what works for you.
Yeah.
The one that's really helpful for me is the breath meditation.
Okay.
So just like focusing on my breath, counting my inhales and exhales and changing them, like it helps me be so present, like come into the present moment.
That's nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where it's at, right? Because depression, we're dwelling on the past, anxiety, focusing on the future. So anything that can bring us back to the present. So whether meditation, connecting with others, getting outside, whatever.
Yeah. Getting out of your head.
Getting out of your head and starting to like move again,
Yeah.
right? And like act and like do.
Yes.
I feel like that's the thing. It's like it creates this barrier to where you're not living fully anymore. And I don't know, maybe some of that is needing to go in your shell and like fix something or work on something. But I think that like when we're blocked from our purpose, like that's not good for us, right?
Yeah.
When we slow down too much, like it's not good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like it was like group therapy session.
Good. I'm
Like
I'm glad I could relieve myself by talking, but like really, truly people listen, talk to somebody. It helps, right? Just, I know I mentioned this stat before. Stat, why do I always say stat? Because I want to sound smart. I don't know.
You're so
It's the
smart.
part of us
Love
that wants
you.
to be good at math.
Yeah.
I know the stats. I know I measured the angles and I've got it. Just listen to me.
So how about, here's a fun fact.
Here's a fun fact. Yeah. Julian's fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day. I mentioned before, but worth repeating, that our pain, when experienced with somebody, they don't even have to say anything, but they can just physically be there, decreases by like about 50%. In terms of like our
my
pain
gosh.
manifesting in cortisol levels, like our stress will go down by 50% just by sitting there. So
I don't think you said that. I'm so glad
That's
you
awesome.
said
Really?
that.
You said
yeah.
that to me before. Did you say that yesterday?
I don't know. I mean, it's my fun fact.
I
My one
hear it.
fun fact
But
that I
that's a
want to
fun
tell
fact.
everybody so they know I'm super smart.
You are
So
super
there you
smart.
are.
So smart. We
And
love you.
also practicing affirmations. I am smart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, like I'm just really grateful that you guys brought me on the show. I love what you guys are doing. You know that I tell you all the time how much I admire you both, and you're both so knowledgeable, but you're real women, and you're willing to share your own struggles, and you're in a position where people are listening to you and looking at you and what you're doing, and it's easy to stand up on a soapbox and look down and be like, our egos want to do that sometimes, right? And like, I'm great, look at me, and this is my shining moment, right? But you guys stand up on that soapbox and you also say like, hey, like, I have issues too, I struggle with this too, and I think that breaks down a lot of barriers for people as well. So you guys are doing such awesome work in the world, and I appreciate that you brought me on to talk about these. It's a subject that's not the most fun, but I think it's really real and important to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for being so sweet and leading with your heart and being vulnerable and sharing today. Can't thank you enough.
We're honored. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Everyday Therapy Podcast. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes and share with your friends. It really helps us reach more people.
We might only record once a week, but we're with you every day.